Alright, hey guys, how's it going?
Here we are.
It's Albie and Mark, the Toddler Fight Club, and the Schwartz. Live at MetLife Stadium for the Giant Seahawk matchup here, Week 7. Mark, how's it going for your players so far?
Well, I've got Darkler going in this game. I'm a little concerned because he hasn't played in the last 3 series.
Yeah, that's concerning for Giant fans and the Schwartz alike.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I have Jimmy Graham going in this game. And Jimmy Graham has fucking guts. That's what he's got so far.
He dropped would-be like 30-plus yard catch, which is good for the Giants.
I think he's so far 1 catch on 5 targets.
Yes.
That's not getting it done.
No,
so the things that have occurred in this game that do affect the league. I'm with Stupid has Evan Ingram going. He got a touchdown.
Yes, he did.
Right in front of us, and it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. It was a very, very well-designed play, and Eli put it where he needed to put it. Well done by all.
He's going to be the guy, I think, here for a while.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah, bringing up Rutherford B. Hazy, because that's who I'm with Stupid is playing this week. I'd really love to, Colin, I know you're a Hawk fan. I know you love your boy Jimmy Graham. I'll give you Jimmy Graham. I want like a bag of chips, I'll take like a dime bag, I could sell at work, it'll be fine. No, seriously, if you're really looking for Jimmy Graham, you could probably use some help. I mean, you're playing Witten right now, maybe we can work something out, you know what I mean? We'll work something out. So, yeah, it's just about time for the On The Blocks as well, so hopefully we get to that maybe next week. Everybody, for the time being, this is the Toddler Fight Club and the Schwartz signing off from MetLife Stadium.
This is Bobby J, and welcome to this week's edition of Livewire, where we examine all the hits and misses off the waiver wire. This week, Bobby J, desperate for a wide receiver, picked up Kenny Stills off the waiver wire and started him to the tune of 26.5 fantasy points. Stills was the 2nd highest scoring player on the team, helping Beer Muscles to their 4th straight victory. Let's get this party started, Dave.
Week 7 in the Always Sunny in Sayreville League, and all good things must come to an end because everything is terrible and I'm terrible. Injuries this week. I'm happy to report for the first time this season that there were no major injuries in the league, which is awesome for a change. However, Stephon Diggs did not play for the 2nd straight week, and for the 2nd straight week, Jeremy Maclin did not play, but again, don't tell Rutherford B. Hazy. I want to see how long we can keep it going. At this point, I think it's fair to say that it's possible that Rutherford B. Hazy may actually be trolling us. Either way, it's great. It's good stuff. Now, he did not get injured in Week 7, but Marshawn Lynch will not be playing in Week 8. He got into a little bit of a scuffle during which he actually will step back. The defense was on the field. He ran in off the sideline during a little bit of a scuffle, got in between a bunch of people who were fighting, grabbed a handful of black and white, looked up, saw that it was the ref, doubled down, just drove the ref backwards. You can't do that. Not allowed to grab the ref. Not allowed to. So he's going to be missing Week 8. He got kicked out of the game right away, scored 9/10 of a point for Rutherford B. Hazy, and then was kicked out, and he will not be playing in Week 8. High score this week was Amari Cooper, who came alive on Thursday night. 11 catches, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, 49 points, the highest individual score of the season for the Schwartz. Now, there was actually another player in the league who also scored over 40 this week, but we'll get to that in a minute. First, the Schwartz-Gotham Rogues key matchup this week completely lived up to the billing, boasting the highest total score of the week. The Schwartz was victorious by a score of 157.4 to 147.5. This was just 9.9 points separating these two high-scoring teams. In this game, the Gotham Rogues actually had more studs in their lineup. Carson Wentz led all scores with 33 points, and he had 4 other players score over 20, but he also had too many duds in his lineup. 3 players scored less than 3 points, and 1 player, his kicker, scored a negative 5 as a matter of fact. On the other side, the Schwartz was more balanced. Of course, he had the huge game from Amari Cooper, but 7 of 9 players scored in double digits. However, none of them were over 17 points. Back to his high-scoring ways, scoring over 140 points in his last 2 consecutive victories, the Schwartz moves his record to 5-2 and stays on the front edge of the playoff hunt. And for that, the Schwartz is this week's hero. Now, I mentioned that there was another player who scored over 40 points this week, and that happens to be Ezekiel Elliott, who was the subject of this week's poll question. That question was whether or not you think that Zeke's going to serve any games of his suspension this year. 2 people voted that they thought he would have to serve suspension games, and 2 people voted that they thought he would not have to serve any suspension games. So we had as much clarity in our poll as the actual Ezekiel Elliott situation. However, Zeke did play in Week 7, and he scored 44.9 points. He was one of 2 players on the Moth who decided to show up for the game. And the Moth does deserve honorable mention for this week's hero, taking down the previously unbeaten Sweep the Leg. However, there's more blame to go around than credit in this contest. Now, somebody told me earlier in the week that they didn't think this next team was a good candidate for the GOAT. I did not let him finish, because Sweep the Leg is one of the goatiest GOATs of all time. They brought a 6-0 record into this week's game with the Moth and lost the contest by a score of 125.5 to 118.2, a 7.3 point margin of victory. Nothing about that seems particularly special. I actually got a text Monday night late when Jake Elliott missed a 40-yard field goal off the post that would have brought the game within 0.3 of a point. Sweep the Leg still would have lost, but it would have been by 0.3 of a point instead of 7.3. That's not why this is bad. This is bad because Sweep the Leg lost this game several times before it even began. So going into the week, Sweep the Leg knew that they needed to pick up a second quarterback because they weren't really in love with the Phil Rivers versus the Broncos matchup. And like you do, he also switched up his defense for the week, going with the Cowboys defense against the 49ers. It seemed like a good matchup. So, the week goes by, and Sweep the Leg starts to look at his lineup and look at the news and the information and starts to psych himself out and psych himself up and starts to think about things a little bit and realizes that maybe not be so comfortable with Brett Hundley at quarterback. He maybe should go with somebody a little more steady like Josh McCown. So he picked up Josh McCown, dropped Brett Hundley. So his lineup was Josh McCown and the Cowboys defense going into the end of the week. And then later in the day, he second-guessed himself, picked up Brett Hundley again, dropped Josh McCown, dropped the Cowboys defense, picked up the Bills defense, and in doing so, completely killed any chance he had of winning this game. So Brett Hundley goes out there and completely embarrasses himself. Without the rushing touchdown he scored, it was just an abject disaster. He only had 11.9 points in the game. However, Josh McCown had a great game. He put up 24.5 points. So that 12.6 points might have helped Sweep the Leg in this situation. Or he could have just left the Cowboys defense in there, who scored 21 points, instead of switching to the Bills defense, who scored 7 points. That 14-point swing definitely could have helped out, but that's not how it went down. He psyched himself out of the points, he psyched himself out of the win, he psyched himself out of the perfect season, and his list of depressing, demoralizing losses to the Moth grows ever larger, just like the darkness that will eventually consume us all. And for that, Sweep the Leg is this week's GOAT. Alright, so it's week 7, and that means it's time for Odd Sundays. So let's kick it out to Colin and probably hear about Marshawn Lynch.
Happy Halloween, it's always sunny in Sayreville. I think this year I'm going to go as my record. That'll really scare some people. I'll tell you what is scary. Sean McVay is only 31 years old. I'm 33. What have I done with my life that guy's made the Rams a viable contender? Who is Brett Hundley anyway? Didn't he used to be like a catcher for the Mets? I think ESPN has officially ruined sports. I just don't care anymore. It's just, they've broken down all the minutia that's next to nothing. It doesn't mean anything anymore. It's become as depressing as politics, and that's saying something. Have a good week, everybody.
All right, thanks, Colin. So the trade market is heating up. The first trade seems to have broken the dam a little, and we had 2 more trades go down. Des Bryant got traded from the Golden Showers to sweep the leg for Pierre Garçon and Cameron Brate, and the Gotham Rogues sent Ty Montgomery and Sterling Shepard to Rusty Strombone for Carlos Hyde and Sammy Watkins. Now remember that the trade deadline is the Wednesday after the 10th game of the season, so we have 3 games left and then the trade deadline. So get your wheeling and dealing done soon because you're running out of time. Alright guys, key matchups. We have 2 awesome matchups to take a look at this week. The first one is between the 5-2 Team Blumpkin and 5-2 the Schwartz. Both of these teams are among the highest scoring teams in the league. They're both very strong. They have been all season. They're both riding 2-game winning streaks right now, and both of them are looking to establish playoff position with more than half of the season already in the books. That's right. We're more than halfway through the season, so it's about time to start looking at playoffs, and these 2 teams have their sights firmly set this season. And the other key matchup is probably an even bigger game. It features the 5-2 Beer Muscles taking on the 3-4 Toddler Fight Club. This is one of the biggest rivalries we have in our league. Not the oldest rivalry, but certainly one of the most hot and heavy rivalries we've ever had. These 2 teams do not get along. There is no love lost. However, this season the rivalry hasn't really been as aggressive or vocal, but I'm sure that these 2 teams both want to win this contest. This is one of those situations where Toddler Fight Club didn't expect to be 3-4, but if he can get a victory over the Beer Muscles, it will make his season worthwhile. And sitting at 5-2, the only thing that could make it any sweeter for Beer Muscles would be a victory over Toddler Fight Club. So sit back, relax, get your popcorn ready, and we'll see who wins in this intense rivalry. So that's it, guys. Week 7 update over. Remember to set your lineups, remember to vote in the polls, and remember that if you got Jeremy Maclin, you got to start him. I will see you next week where it's always sunny.
If you look very closely down there, you